Welcome back to The Remote Life. My name is Han Talbot, also known as Han Meets World, and today we'll be chatting with Flor Dos Reis. Originally from Argentina and now based in the Algarve, Flor is a community builder and consultant who founded LOFT Community, a growing network connecting remote professionals across Portugal. In this episode, we dive into building sustainable remote work communities, why the Algarve offers a different pace for remote professionals, and the importance of designing your life authentically. So grab a coffee, a tea, or something stronger, and let's get started.
Flor, welcome to the Remote Life podcast. Thank you for having me here. So why don't we kick things off? Tell everyone about your remote life journey so far. Thank you. Okay. So I think this is going to sound a little familiar, but my remote life journey started during pandemic. Surprise. At the moment I was based in Argentina, I was working for a big e-commerce company with just one home office a week. And we were doing a pilot for second home office. And then, pandemics, I started to work fully remote. At the beginning, I was working too much because, of course, e-commerce was one of the industries that did really well during pandemic. And after the lockdown was a little bit more flexible, and I was tired of being like in my small apartment. It was like, what am I doing here? I need to be in contact with another landscape. And then I told my husband, at that moment, he was not my husband. But I told my boyfriend, why don't we go to a place that is my happy place in Argentina that is called Cariló. That is like a really nice forest with beach where I spent most of my family holidays when I was little. I said, let's go there. And it was like amazing. And then it was like, okay, let's start to travel around Argentina while we're working. So we went to the south, to Patagonia, like to different places. And that's how it started. And now I'm based in the Algarve and I live in the south of Portugal, where I would have never thought that I could ever live there because I was born in a big city, right? And that was the life that I knew before. So yeah, has been a cool journey for me, at least.
Yeah, and seeing you talking about like going to Patagonia, and I'm like, oh, it sounds so nice. Tell us about like your initiatives. Tell us more about the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you. My whole life, I've been working for companies, mostly on digital marketing, on branding. And now I'm working independently. I define myself as a community builder and remote advocate. And I work on projects related to that make me feel full, I used to feel like so much emptiness. Like every day I was working, I was like, I don't like what I'm doing. And now I love what I do. And I want to make sure that I can keep going and keep doing this because it has been like a really great journey. So when I arrived to the Algarve, and thanks God that we went there after pandemics, because if not, I'm sure like I would have been like to Lisbon or to Madrid, like to a big city. When I arrived to the Algarve, I loved it. And I said, okay, I'm going to make this place my home. And it was very difficult because I was feeling really lonely. And that's when all this community builder thing started. I looked for a lot. I looked for workings for this and that, and I was not able to find anything in the area that I was at that moment. That was more to the central east side. And then it was like, okay, maybe there's an opportunity here to start to gather and create community. I was seeing that there was some communities like more to Lagos or to Portimao, but where I was like, I was not finding like a digital nomad, remote professionals, or however you want to call it, community. And that's how it started. Like, it started with an afterwork, and now we are a community of more than 500 people. And there's like a lot of things going on, even if I'm not there. So now I'm in Buenos Aires for 2 months. And this month there's like 20 events going on that the community created. So it's pretty cool. And I remember when you were there for the Nomad World Fest, I remember that you posted something. I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or on Instagram, that you were like for 3 days in Faro. And you were saying like, oh, this is nice, but there's nothing. And I know like I lived there for 6 months, and it was like, so it's such a struggle for me, like to connect and meet people and to create like deep, meaningful relationships, And I think like now it's quite different because everyone is more connected. Everyone is like creating more things. Like it has been a great journey, and that's opened like a lot of. It was a Pandora box, like I created this, and now it's like whoa, so many things going on and happening, and so much opportunity.
100%. And I love that you remember that post that I did, because it's not that there's not people there. That's the thing. I think this is also a very interesting concept for the Algarve in general, and maybe you can elaborate a bit more on this. But I feel like Faro's got the tourism. It has the people and like the people going there. But I feel like Faro and other parts of the Algarve just kind of have, it's a very specific kind of type of people who were going, at least back in 2023. And when some people were saying to me, oh no, Faro's going to be the next like tech hub, I was like, what? Okay. Like, you sure? I guess you can kind of maybe elaborate more on this. Like, who do you think that the Algarve first and what these towns are for at the end of the day? Because even when I said I was going to, even when I said I was going to an event in Albufeira, people were like, why? So people, what?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And sometimes when people ask me, why do you live there? It's like, well, maybe you need to come and see it by yourself. But it's true, like, I feel like maybe a couple of years ago, at least when I arrived, we were still using, what you call it, during pandemic.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, I arrived after pandemics, like, so everything was like slowly starting to pick up again. Because of course, most of Algarve is mainly like tourism and holidays and summer. But there's like a lot of communities there working to change that. There's like tech communities, there's like startup communities, there's like digital nomads and remote workers communities. And what I really see and feel is there's like a really nice dynamic of thinking in a collaborative way. So like we are all working together to try to put the Algarve in the map in another perspective. And I truly believe that it can become like a really interesting tech hub. I've seen during these 3 years that I've been there how everything has been evolving. And it's like a nice combination between locals and internationals that are coming to the Algarve. Like they're working together to this change and this difference. Mainly, I would say like the main two hubs at the moment can be like Lagos, starting like with a lot of movement related to remote work and digital nomads. Then it spread to Portimao, then to Faro, then to Albufeira. Well, LOFT, as you know, the community that I created is spread between 4 main regions. But if you talk about tech hub, the main tech hub at the moment, I would say it's Faro, but they are working from there through all the Algarve, creating like meetups and events like in the whole region and collaborating with the communities that independent people like me I have started just in my case, was out of my personal need, that then I realized that it was a shared need between like a lot of people that were, for my surprise, living there. Because initially when I started it, was like, okay, maybe there's like some digital nomads passing by and they don't find community. And then the great surprise for me was there's like a lot of people like me that they are remote professionals living here. And that's where I think like there's this combination of, okay, you have a community of people that are locals. I consider myself local. And then like whoever is passing by, they can join us for the time that they are there. And many people just came for 2 months and then they decided to stay to live, because they found a nice mix of community, good weather, nice landscapes, and also a lot of professionals, right? So it's cool. I like it. Yeah.
I guess I'd be curious, and I imagine that there are probably people who are also maybe listening, thinking, but why the Algarve? Why the Algarve as the place to go versus, say, Lisbon? Because I know, for example, when Web Summit hits, obviously everyone descends on Lisbon, Cascais, like all the surrounding areas. What is it about the Algarve to you? And what you, I suppose, envision the future of the Algarve to be for people, as opposed to, say, even places like Malaga in Spain, like they're all kind of up and coming tech hotspots too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is the defining factor?
So I don't know, like each person is completely different, right? So that's cool. Like you have like a lot of different places with different vibes, right? Like I've been to Malaga, I've been to Lisbon, I'm in the Algarve. And what I really think is I wish that Algarve never ever becomes Lisbon or Malaga. Because I mean like Algarve is a place like it has a slower pace, right? And it's not bad, right? It's different, right? Like, so if you are more into something that you really want to have a tech vibe and, like you want to create business, like I have met really amazing people that are running from their big companies fully remote, It's a place that a lot of people choose to still be entrepreneurs, to still create startups, to still develop services from there to the rest of the world in an environment where you can maybe connect more with nature. I would say, like, for me at least, a better quality of life, I just finish my day sometimes and go out and I just sit down to see the sunset, at the beach. And I see the beauty in those small things, right? That doesn't mean that the area can't have like a thriving and active activity. So that's why like Love started to help in that thing, because at least I and many people felt that there was like options and opportunities missing. But like whenever I go to Lisbon, and I come from Buenos Aires, like Buenos Aires is a big thriving city. Whenever I get to Lisbon, it's like, okay, this is cool for 3-4 days. Then I'm done. I'm tired. And when I'm back in the Algarve, it's like, I love where I live. I really think like it gave me a place where I was able to really focus more on what I really wanted to do and be more creative and have time to really work on stuff, and also like to do more of like an inner process of not being so overwhelmed about everything that was going outside, like I was able to connect with myself too. So that's my story, my perspective. But in general, I see people sharing that feeling, right? Like they are there in the Algarve because they decided to escape from the big chaos of the cities, and they found there a place where they can still thrive and make business, but also enjoy more of a quality of life, I would say.
I guess it's going to be one of the big questions now, right? How do you define what a digital nomad hotspot is? Because at the end of the day, like Bali, and I guess also Lisbon's not super far off it technically, but we've had a couple of examples of where it's gone a bit crazy and it's actually had a negative impact on the destination, or maybe the infrastructure is not quite there for certain places. And I guess it is about turning the conversation into more of taking destinations that suit your needs and suit who you are as a person. And maybe that is just more of what we need to be having like conversations around. Again, like you said, the Algarve is a specific lifestyle that suits you. And if you want the kind of busier cities, then you go for that because you like cities. It sounds like it's the start of a developing conversation, no matter who you are at the end of the day. I'd be curious to know, how are you trying to also market what you're doing in the Algarve? Yeah, Algarve is known for a lot of short-term tourism, right? How are you distinguishing yourself from that market? And how would you say those two, like, how do you distinguish them?
I heard for your last episode that you were talking about the digital nomad life. I also felt like I moved to Europe. I said like, I want to be a digital nomad and travel around, blah, blah, blah. And I did that for a couple of months. And then I said like, no, this is not for me. I tried. Like at least like I said like, okay, travel that. And it was like, yeah, this is not what I really want. And sometimes it's interesting to see this, right? Because we see that outside, right? Like we see that on the social media, like other people being digital nomads, and then we feel tempted and it's like, okay, I tried it, but then I realized like it was not for me. Like I listened to myself and said like, no, I want to have a place that I feel like it's my home, in terms of I can invite my friends, I can receive my family, I can receive my visits. Like I really wanted to have that place that I felt like really at home. At the moment, I feel I have two homes. That's Argentina and Portugal. So the thing is that some people still think like, oh, you're a digital nomad. And I don't feel like myself as a digital nomad. Yeah, right. I mean, like I'm nomading between Portugal and Argentina. And from time to time, I just grab my computer and go, like I have a friend, for example, in Copenhagen, and I go to visit her. So for other people that see from the outside, they say, oh, you're a digital nomad. But I think like the most important thing for me is what enables the flexibility is the possibility of working online remotely, doing everything from your computer. Then there's like a big, wide spectrum of what you want to be and what you want to do, right? Like there's some people that say like, oh, I just want to be like 1 month in different places. Other people have like 2 or 3 bases and they move around. So I think that's a great thing, right? Like we are all different and we can have this freedom of choosing what to do. And I think like that, right? Like sometimes we need moments to be like in a place where we say, like, okay, I want to maybe slow down a little bit, connect more meaningful and deep, in some places. And maybe like a place like Algarve for someone is like a really digital nomad, let's call it, right? Like that is moving around can be attractive. And then maybe sometimes like, oh, no, I want to go back to a big city, and they go to more to a place where they are like more with a lot of activities and a lot of things. Anyway, in Algarve, there's a lot going on. So I think that's the cool thing if you talk about someone that is like digital nomad, moving around all the time. Like maybe there's moments where they need a place where to be like more in contact with nature, like and slow down a little bit. And maybe Algarve, it's for them. Or maybe there's other people like me and all the other people that are living in the Algarve that they choose that for their life, like the whole year round, But in terms of the impact for the region, I really believe that, as you said, like Algarve has been a place that has attracted tourists during summer, during like 4 months of the year. And then what I really see is like the rest of the year, many things close. Many people are left without jobs. The economy slows down, but still is a place that during low season is amazing because you have nice weather. I like it more because it's less crowded, right? So I really believe that the region has a nice opportunity to attract people that have flexibility, that are nomads, or they just want to jump into a vacation, escape the winter of other parts of Europe. So I really think that it's a really nice destination to try, to know, to visit. And if you do, and you're a person that really want to get social and connect with others, to connect with the local communities, because there's people and there's a lot going on. The problem is that when you are not plugged into those spaces, sometimes it's really tough. But yeah, at the same time, I think like to really know the Algarve and explore it, to know more about it, just 3 days is not enough. For me, it's a region more for a slow travel thing. There are some co-livings in the area. So there's people coming like to stay for a month or 2 months. I mean, it might be different from like a digital nomad hotspot like Bali. You're not going to find what you find maybe in those places. But that's fine. It's cool to have different options.
100%. I think that's the thing. There's so much conversation around what a stereotypical digital nomad hotspot means. And I think that there needs to be some kind of push towards actually making more sustainable models for destinations, not necessarily calling things a digital nomad hotspot. I think it all comes down to ultimately what it is that you are looking for from the destination, from your lifestyle, right? Okay, you don't have to go far in order to create a digital nomad or remote life, right? And you're mentioning about communities and having people to connect with. How do you create and maintain genuine human interaction in what is kind of ultimately a digital lifestyle first, right? How do you create that?
I've been always my whole life working with a lot of international people. Even before working remotely, I was working in big companies, working with people from all over the world. So I really believe that one of the most important things that I've done in my life was like to be just me. Like to be just me and connect from there with the different people that I have met from all over the world. And understanding with empathy that we are all like different, that we have all different backgrounds, that we may be like from different social cultural areas, places, even like economic tiers, So to be really mindful of that. And then now more than ever, when I'm in this world of digital nomads, remote workers, I really believe that that has made a difference. And I always try to tell the others to be authentic, be you, like, for example, now I hosted here in Buenos Aires a 3-week workation. And the first thing I told people when we had like our opening dinner was like, we only have 3 weeks to be here together, to enjoy together. So don't stop yourself of being you. Show up here as you are with your authenticity, with all of your colors and with respect for others, right? Because that's the thing that your freedom ends when the freedom of the other person starts, right? And you need to find that balance. Because I've seen when being like in other co-livings or something like that, after 3 weeks, people really got to know each other and were able to do like deep, genuine, meaningful connections. They say, oh, that's a pity. Now we are leaving, right? So it's like try to create that bond from the early beginning so that you can enjoy the time that you're together the fullest. So I really believe that that's the thing. You don't need to pretend to be anyone else. You're not in a theater, you're in real life. And when you do that, I think that it's quite cool because you can make really nice friendships, long lasting friendships. And then you have friends all over the world. And that's amazing. I met a guy, Federico, in the Nomad World Fest last year, and now he's in Buenos Aires. And he sent me a message like, "Hey, I'm in Buenos Aires," and he's like, "Oh, cool, let's meet." And I only was with him like 3 days, but we had in one moment like a really cool, deep conversation. And I said like, "Oh, I like you too. Okay, let's stay connected." So I think that's the thing, like stop pretending, stop fitting into something that you don't need to fit, like that's what for me the corporate world always was like, you need to dress up like this or be like that. It's like, no, I don't want that. I want something more authentic, genuine, and that's it. Like I can work with sport clothes. I don't need to be with a suit.
Being authentic, that is what it is. That leads nicely into my next question. What does it ultimately mean to you to design your life?
Well, I mentioned before something about that, like to design your life, right? Like you need to understand who you are, right? Because if not, you're going to be designing the life of someone else, right? So sometimes when we see like out there what others are doing or what they are living on, it's like you want to design that life because you're seeing like all these outside ideas of what an ideal life should be. And that's what I did when I went to Europe. I was like, I want to be digital nomad. And then I got this moment in my life that I was like in the Algarve, working from home in a moment, feeling like really, really lonely. But I think like that chapter of my life allowed me to go like so in and understand like who I really was, what I really sad to give to the world, that then I say like, oh, cool, this is who I am. Not all of those other people, like, this is who I am. And from there, it's like, okay, now I'm going to design the life that I want. And what I really realized was like, I love the Algarve and I want to be here. But in order to be here, I need to have community, connections, people. And I was not finding that. So it was like, okay, let's create it. Let's design that. And the same thing is now like with like my career. It's like, okay, now I know who I am. I know what I want to do. I know what I can bring to the world. And I'm working on making sure that I can design that life that I want. And also show to others, like, if it's what you want, you can also do it. But if it's what you want, like, I don't want to sell you my life, like, I want you to find out what's the life that you want to design to yourself.
And maybe, just maybe, it's also in the Algarve. You never know.
Maybe. You can just try, come and see. Or maybe it's in Argentina or whatever it is. But I think what I'm trying to show outside, and I tell it to everyone, if you work with your computer and you can be elsewhere, like, why not jump into an experience that you can go to a co-living or to a workation or to a fest, and maybe there you open up your mind, your head, and you say like, hey, there's another life. Like, it's not the traditional life that we have been seeing the whole life from our parents and grandparents, and that's so. It's cool to put yourself into these situations and maybe find out like, okay, maybe this is what I could do for my life. Or maybe you connect with that world and you say like, okay, that's cool, but it's not for me. But it's a matter of exposing yourself to new things, to other people. I think it's cool. At least something will make an impact. Maybe you get a creative idea for something else. What do you think? What has been like for you in that sense?
What you mentioned about the episode, I talked about like, am I a digital nomad or was I ever a digital nomad? Because for me, the concept of digital nomading was more just the term that kind of gave me the empowerment to like actually follow the remote life. Whereas I wouldn't say that I am a digital nomad, but for me, it's always been important to be able to design my life. I'm really fortunate that I discovered new content creators and YouTubers making money before I graduated university. So again, I could kind of be like, oh, they're doing that. So actually, I don't have to go do the traditional route, like do the corporate graduate scheme thing. And it kind of gave me a bit more confidence to then start pursuing a life that was tailored to me rather than what was, as you said, the norm today. And so ultimately designing my life is about not only obviously living in places that I love it, like living wherever I fancy or dressing however I want to, but it's ultimately about also being able to work in the way that I need to. I can't go to the same office 5 days a week and live at the exact same four walls because I will be uninspired, stressed out, chained to my desk basically, and that's not how I work. That's just not how I work. I need to be able to have the flexibility, and it's not about being anti-office, it's being pro what works for you in your life, what works for you in your business. And it's about being able to design your life, having the freedom.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because I always tell people, if for you what works is to go to the office every day, then do it.
Yeah.
But for other people, maybe it doesn't work. So let's give them the possibility to work differently or to live differently, right? And it's not all around work only. But that's the thing. I agree in that term. For each person, there's a different recipe. So like those who need a more like stable life, right? Like with a base and with a stable job, that's good. But it's not the only option. There are other ways of living, right? Of designing your life.
There's always been different ways around it. I think we just had a period of like human life now where we've been told that going to the office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and working however many years in this office is going to be the payoff to a happy life. I'm not saying that you should always be happy and like toxic positivity is a real problem, but it's about finding a generally consistent level of fulfillment and satisfaction ultimately in your life. And that doesn't look the same. Even going into an office, like if you do enjoy going into the office, even that doesn't look the same to certain people. Some people like the offices that have a ping pong table where you can wear jeans, and others like to wear a suit and go in, like, or not. Ultimately, it's being able to sit and have an honest conversation with yourself about how you actually are able to work or how you actually want to live your life ultimately, and going from there.
And challenge a little bit, right? Because unfortunately, sometimes it depends just from yourself, right? Because if like you work in an environment where that is not allowed, you have two options. Or you accept it, or you go to another place. But sometimes it's cool also like to challenge and say why, right? So there's a girl that I remember this story that she came to stay in Algarve in a co-living because she was working in an agency in Germany. Nobody did home office or nothing like that. They go to the office every day. But one day she went to her boss and said, like, hey, I would like to try this and be 1 month working from the Algarve. Can I try it? And they said, like, yeah, sure. Okay. And she just came. And she was here for a month working, and she was joining the meetings, and they were all like, oh, that's so cool. When you come back, why don't you make a presentation and tell everyone, like, how was this experience for you? So like sometimes it's just a matter of asking, right? Or challenging or saying like, hey, this is possible, and see what happens. If you receive a no, like if you receive the no and you say like, this is what I want, then maybe that will trigger okay, then I'm going to find a place where they say yes. Or if they say yes, maybe you're making a great impact in that company, in that team. You're opening a door for making a different way of working and living. You never know.
Yeah, I think when some people's biggest fears are they've got to quit their 9 to 5, but actually there are a lot more managers who actually are quite flexible in their approach. Like I joke with people about the fact that they don't need to uproot their entire lives to go nomading. Maybe they just want a vacation, but also maybe they just need a week of remote working, and then that's the cup filled in that respect. So ultimately, it's about open dialogues. It's about open conversation with yourself, but also understanding that actually the flexible lifestyle, the remote lifestyle could be more within your reach than you realize. It's not that big a deal. It's really not that big a deal. Ultimately, I would think that people are interested in keeping their team members happy so that they produce the results that they need to. It's about understanding that you've got a lot more like ownership of your life than maybe you have been led to believe up until this point. It's not an either or situation. Did everything I could to really make sure that it definitely was that I wanted to go full-time remote working before I actually did it. That's why I've been on off remote for 12 years and working and traveling full-time for 3, because I really did everything I could before I ultimately did go full-time, just to be sure.
That's good. Need to try.
Amazing stuff. Well, I guess I'd be curious, any final thoughts you've got on the future of the Algarve, like anything around communities and just how you see things going?
I'm really excited about how everything has been moving on last year and how the different communities have been like making us a place for people to choose. Like some people have been telling me, oh, love changed my life. And it was like, whoa. I mean, like, I know it changed my life because before I felt like I was the only person in the area. And now I know that there's like a lot of people. Or maybe some people are telling me like, I was thinking about leaving, but now that I see that there's community activities and more, I'm staying. Some people are just moving from London to the Algarve because they came to make the test, and while connect LOFT, they found a lot of things that maybe if they wouldn't have found community, they would have said like, oh, this is too lonely, I'm going back to my home. So that was just 1 year. So it's like you say, what can happen if we can keep this in the long term? And I'm always looking forward like to collaborate with other communities in the region, but not only there, but in other places, right? So for example, I'm always in contact with a community that is in Ireland, another one is in Madeira, looking for other communities around there, because it would be so cool. Like if you ever decide to move from one place to another, that you don't need to start all over again, but that you can say like, oh, this community is also has the similar spirit than the one that you have here, so you can then find again like nice connections in the other region. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I imagine going on. And maybe like anyone out there that wants to come to the Algarve to know the region, it can be a good moment. So yeah, hopefully see some new faces around.
Yeah, come and discover all the amazingness, because you guys are definitely doing a lot of work around this now. In general, the region is starting to really pick up and take off in a whole other way. So it's very exciting what you're up to. But I've got one last question for you before we wrap things up. My final question to you is, fill in the blank, home is where?
So this morning I started reading a book that was dedicated from a friend to mine that is called El Camino del Artista. I don't know how it's in English, but it's like the artist's way.
Yep.
She wrote there a dedicatoria, like a message.
Yeah.
When dedication, thank you. And she said, thank you very much for hosting me, Irla. I really felt at home because I could be myself, like when she was with us. So I really believe that home is where you can just be yourself, right? And you feel at home because it's just you being you and feeling welcome for who you are. So I think that's for me what home means.
I love that book has been making a constant appearance on this podcast since I started it. The amount of guests that have referenced that book now. If you have been listening and have not read The Artist's Way by now, what are you doing? Like, we've all done it. We've all been through it.
I'm starting to read it today, so see how it goes. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to hear your updates and like to hear about your journey on that one. And maybe I'll go reread it myself. But yeah, thank you so much, Flora. It's been amazing to chat, and hopefully it won't be too long before we see each other in person again.
Yes, please. You're always welcome.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Remote Life, and thank you, Flora, for taking the time to speak with us. You can find links to her profiles below. Thank you so much again for listening, and we can't wait to remote work with you again soon.